Good morning and greeting, Earthbound travelers. Welcome to today's episode of Cast Guidance. I am Tyr the DM, the world's okayest DM. And with me, as always, is Loch Clark, the unruly one. Hey, Loch.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
It's going. Want to say hi to all you special people out there in the audience. Thank you so much for joining in today. Today's a special day. We're going to be talking about homebrewed rules. So that's going to be interesting because I have some homebrewed rules that I want to discuss. But before we do all that, we do have some stuff we need to get out of the way. First and foremost, we are for mature audiences. If you're not a mature audience, you may want to leave now, especially if you get offended by things like the word fuck. Secondly, we are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with any TTRPG creators, publishers, any of that. We're just two individuals come to give you our questionable opinion on tabletop role-playing.
And boy, are they questionable.
Let's dice them.
Yes. Hi, gamers. I'm here to talk to you about our partners in this endeavor, Level Up Dice. Find purveyors of luxury dice for all your sexy dice needs. And, you know, these ambassador dice, we've given out a bunch of them on the channel. We all use them. You should get a set of your own. You haven't won one from us yet. We're all out. We don't have any more to give away at the moment. So you're going to have to do that for yourself. You take a little personal responsibility there. You have to wander over to the Level Up site and use our portal to do so because it makes us look good and you want us to look good. And get yourself a set of them ambassador dice. Those are the blue cat's eye dice with the optical shift and the color variant. Pretty stained glass glyphic pattern done in a reddish pink. You're going to want to go check those out. And to do that, you're going to go to our portal, like I said, which is http://bit.ly/O, D, WOTD dice. Go check those out. I almost forgot the URL for a second because I switched to the other one. Also, we would like to thank the person who provided the music that we use as our theme song for the show. That is our very own Patrick Taylor. Thanks, Pants!
Thanks, Pants. Oh, so how you doing today, Loch?
I am caffeinated. I am awake. I've had a bit of food. Yeah, not so bad. Yourself?
I woke up to a phone call from my now former manager letting me know that he had been let go, that they're doing a restructure. So, good times.
Oh yeah, those are always fun. You gotta. So I guess the real question there is, did you like your manager?
Loved my manager. He's one of the best managers I've ever had.
Then that sucks ass.
It does.
If your manager was a dick and they were restructuring, I'd be clapping for you. But,
And I am glad to say that I'm having an excellent hair day. So.
Yeah, me too. Look, I just shorted it all off yesterday.
Nice. You sexy thing, you.
I am freshly shorn and from the shower.
So, you ready to talk homebrewed rules?
Sure. Or, anything D&D related, really.
Yeah, because we always go off on tangents on this show. We should change the name to Cast Tangent.
Yeah, okay. Cast Guidance is a spell. It's such a good name.
So, what is the absolute worst thing about rolling a nat 20 on an attack?
The worst thing about rolling a nat 20 on an attack? There's bad things about rolling a nat 20 on an attack?
Yes, it happens to me a lot.
When you roll shitty damage?
Exactly. That's the absolute worst thing about rolling a crit is when you roll a crit, you're like, fuck yeah, I just laid the smack down, and you roll snake eyes on damage. So I saw someone discussing a homebrew rule for this, and I got excited.
All right, I'm listening.
Okay, so usually it's, instead of 1d whatever, it's 2d whatever. Well, you take one die and give them max damage on that. and then they roll their other die and add that to the max damage. So no matter what, they're at least doing maximum weapon damage on a crit.
Hold on, I'm rolling that around in my brain. Give me a second. Yeah, because all right, so like let's. Whenever a homebrew rule comes up, I like to take it to the extreme and like see if it breaks anything. If you extrapolate it out as far as it can go. So, worst case scenario, right? Is so now you're rolling. All right. So previously, the way we handled. And I know it varies from table to table. The way we handled crits is you roll one die and you times it by 2. There are tables where you roll 2 die and you add them together. People can't see our face. Oh, there we're back. Why is my phone doing that weird? Can't even see chat. There we go. See, some tables you roll 2 die and you add them together. So with this system, you're rolling 1 die, and even if you rolled max damage, if your table had previously been doing a ×2, well then you've rolled a max damage crit because you're already getting a free max damage from the first die and you're rolling the second die. So at its worst, at its most powerful, it's doing so it's just guaranteeing you that you get that you're doing above maximum for a non-crit. That you're at least doing more than a regular hit potentially. I like that. No, I like it a lot. That works.
So
I'm gonna like it when you start hitting us with this rule, and you roll the nat 20. I'm gonna love it when I roll a nat 20. I'm gonna hate it when you do it. I'm just letting you know now.
So Black Dragon, what the premise is, and let's use a 1d8 in the example. Let's say that your weapon does 1d8 damage. You roll a crit. Instead of rolling that and multiplying it by 2, or rolling 2 die and adding them together, you would start with 8 points of damage, max damage on 1 die, roll another 1d8 and add what you roll to the 8 points of damage. So you're doing max damage plus on a crit. Does that make sense? Always forget there's a delay.
Yeah. No. I for one dig it. I'm a fan. I think that's a good system. It feels empowering.
I'm going to
incorporate it. I'm all for rules that feel empowering. I do enjoy it when it is. There is nothing like the sense of relief when you roll a crit against one of us, and then you're like 2 damage. There is, like you wipe your brow, you breathe a sigh of relief. But so I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss that a lot. But now I'll be praying for you to roll a 9 or whatever.
Roll low, roll low, roll low. Which, I mean, let's face it, I roll low anyway, so most times it'll be max damage plus 1.
So just to clarify the example, just to make sure that we're all clear. If my weapon damage is 2d6, I would then have a 12 as my base damage on a crit, and I would then roll 2d6 and add that to 12.
Correct.
Is the way that would work. Yeah, no, I'm for it. Yeah. I had a homebrew rule in my brain that I was going to talk about, and thinking about crit math has completely wiped my brain out. I no longer have that thread available to me. Hopefully it will come back to me. So I'm going to look at you and go, you got anything else?
To answer Black Dragon's question, yes, that's plus modifiers. So if we use the example of 2d6 damage, you'd start with 12, roll 2d6, add that to 12, then add your modifiers, because modifiers do not get doubled on a crit.
That is correct. Oh, hey, you know what? Not a home rule thing, but while it's occurring to me, I wanted to take a moment and apologize to Tyr on the air in front of God and everybody. I overstepped a little bit in DQSR. I started answering rules questions at your table. I shouldn't have done that. I feel bad about it. I had spent a week getting my head in DM mode for running on Sunday, and so when rules questions came up on Saturday, my brain was in the wrong place, and I know better than that, and I'll do better in the future, and I apologize.
It's all good, brother. It's all good.
I know it's all good. Nonetheless, it does not mean that I can't offer an apology, and if you're going to downplay it, well, fuck off then.
No, thank you for your apology. That was an awesome thing for you to do, because, I don't get to do a lot. I get to make, NPCs and stuff, but the rules things is one of my favorite things, because it makes me think.
We both have a passion for that, and like I said, I was trying to I'd been all week psyching myself up for running a game on stream for the first time, and so my head was not in the player space as well as it should have been on Saturday, and that is all on me, and I'm taking personal responsibility for that.
So it's a different beast running on stream, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. Yeah. The time management thing is very different than what I'm used to in running a D&D game. It's usually when I've run a game before, well, we've got 4 hours to play tonight before people have to go to bed or whatever, and or we've got 6 hours because it's whatever. We have X amount of time that we're going to play. Well, you'll get as far as you get, and then we'll pick it up next time. But with this, we've got a hard out, and there is no next time because it's a one shot. I don't think I've ever run a one shot before. Come to think of it, I've always run and to be fair, this one is they're contained episodes. But I wrote a 5-shot, not a 1-shot. But that's just the overarching plot. The individual jobs are individual jobs. They're just that. So yeah, different beast. Weird. I liked it. I learned a lot. Hopefully, I'll be better at it in the future. I don't want to sit in your chair weekly, though. Don't make me.
It's a beast, and trying to juggle many plates. And at this point, I don't think I'm allowed to leave. I think people would hunt me down. So.
Yes, Ustad, I am a details man. Very, very, very much. That is truer words.
So I do have another homebrew rule with that.
Okay.
It's not so much a homebrew rule, but it is. But it is. It is, but it isn't. And I just want your opinions on it. I have my opinion on it, but I want yours. I've seen the discussion come up on social media and followed it through that there is a large percentage of dungeon masters out there that do death saving throws for their players, and they do them in secret.
No. Dislike. 1 star. Would not recommend. Yeah. So here's my thing. I understand the impulse. Because there is an amount of metagaming, quote metagaming, strategy that happens naturally when you're playing. I keep seeing there's a hair on my hat somewhere, and I can't. Okay. It was just my ADHD was going crazy over it because I could see it on the black of the flag background. Sorry. There's a certain amount of strategy that goes into. Okay, I don't have to get him up yet. He's made 2 positive saves, and he's about to roll his 3rd one. None of the enemies are close enough to attack him. I can get to him next round. I don't have to do it right now. Sort of like. So yeah, I understand like wanting to quash that, wanting to make the game grittier and more realistic. You don't know the person's unconscious and bleeding. You don't know the stakes are higher. So I understand that impulse, but what raises the tensions more? The not knowing and having to guess where they're at in their death saves, or watching, or having, or the player having the agency to roll it themselves, and then you getting to witness the oh shit. Every time they fail, the entire table goes oh shit. The closer they get to the 3rd fail, it's that's edge of your seat tension. That is exactly what you want at your table. That is that's the good drama. Don't take that away from the table. That's my opinion.
No, I am in total agreement. I think that it takes away the player's agency. I don't want to be the one responsible for rolling a character's death saves. Unless it's my character. I especially because I roll like shit, but I think that completely falls on the shoulders of the player to be rolling the death saves for their character. I do see that, the whole metagaming, okay, they've got 2 successes, they're okay, I don't have to rush right this minute. That kind of bothers me a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, what are you going to do? You could have the player roll and keep it a secret, but I like having it out in the open. I like knowing what's going on. I like everybody else to know what's going on because I like for them to know that shit is real. And you can have 2 successes and then roll a 1, and that gives you 2 fails. So there's no guarantees. Even if you have those 2 successes, there's no guarantees until you have that 3rd success. Period.
Right. Yeah, and especially streaming. We want the audience invested. We want the tension in those tense moments to be high tension. We need, the audience needs to be riding the roller coaster with us. And if you were rolling secret death throws behind your DM screen, then the audience is on the same journey as the players, but I don't feel like they're not actually on the roller coaster. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
the kiddie roller coaster instead. Like the tension is different. So I am. Yeah, no, that I'm okay. I came across a homebrew rule that I would love your opinion on.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how this will work. I could see this working in a table game. I don't know about doing it in our game because we use the Milestone System and we all. It'd be weird if one of the party members was a different level than everybody else. But this rule was inspired. This was a guy who was running a campaign that was anime inspired, or he wanted a more anime feel to his world. So he created a rule for his game that said every player at the table during the course of the campaign may choose to level up their character at any time once.
And
if you are unconscious when you decide to cash in your level up, you get the benefits of a full rest, and you get all of your health back. You just stand back up with an extra level. And that is the Dragon Ball Z. Goku just got pummeled into the ground, and then everyone else has spent an entire episode fighting the bad guy without Goku, and then Goku just stands back up and is suddenly stronger than he was before for no good reason. It's just like, that's the best you got, and then goes ham on the guy. It's powering up. You get the wind that blows just your hair and nobody else's when you stand back up. That's how cool you are now. And that everyone gets to do it once during the campaign. You got to pick your moment, but everybody gets one. Just, I choose to level.
That is an interesting rule. That is, I can see where it gives you. I can see the pros and cons. I can see where it gives you that one token of get out of death free. And I can see where it gives you that dramatic superhero moment. But I can also see where then it starts unbalancing your party.
Well, I mean, eventually that will come out in the wash.
Eventually,
right? Because everyone will eventually use their level up. And the odds are that you're gonna get, that one because this always happens in groups. One player uses theirs, and that sort of reminds everyone else, oh yeah, it's cool when you use that, and then a couple other people are gonna use theirs in rather quick succession, generally, And then you're going to have what you're going to wind up with for a minute is you're going to wind up with half the table having used their level up and half the table not having used their level up. And then you're going to and then you're eventually going to wind up with that one guy who's holding on to his.
That would be me.
Yeah, just waiting for that uber moment to do it, and it not coming for them as readily. So that's that.
No, this is like I said, I can see the pros and cons of it. Not sure it's something I would do at my table. It's something I have to think on, but it does sound cool. Yeah,
like in the right campaign, abso-fucking-lutely. That'd be. And it could be cool in any campaign, but like especially, well, it doesn't use levels per se, but so you'd have to adjust the rule. But there was a very like anime with mechs inspired game. Oh, they played it on Friends at the Table, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. They homebrewed a system using like film noir detective rules with an anime system to make an interesting game that had mechs and other aspects, very detective-y aspects. It's a fun thing to listen to. But yeah, so like in a game like that one free, you thought I was gone, but no, I'm here, and I'm more powerful than when you knocked me down. Moment would be cool. But yeah, no, it would be especially cool if you were playing sort of a Castlevania-inspired game, because that feels very anime to me.
Yeah, that could be very cool.
Yeah. All right. So, you got anything else? You got another one?
This is a debate as old as time. Ability checks, saving throws, 20s and 1s.
Yeah. No, I agree with the rules as written on this one. You know, not every task is winnable.
Exactly.
Some things are just above your ability.
Exactly.
You know, you come across the giant Uber safe made by gnomes out of adamantine that would require years of training as a safe cracker, in particular, in order to open. And your level 2 thief with their thieves' tools, I don't think has a shot at it, and shouldn't, no matter how high they roll. You know, like rolling a nat 20, should not be an automatic success in that situation. You don't have the skills to open this. I'm sorry, you can't. You know, the difficulty, the DC to open it was 35. And the best your rogue can do right now at level 2 is, 27 or whatever. I don't know. So there was no way you were even coming close to getting this open. Sorry. But likewise, I like, there's, okay, this is going to dovetail for me into the idea, or the homebrew rule that I saw proposed, which was failing forward. And the example that was given for failing forward is when someone rolls the nat 1 on their skill check, you find a way to make things have gone wrong for them without punishing them. For example, you are climbing up a cliffside, trying to be sneaky, climb up the cliffside and avoid the guards. Someone rolls a natural 1. That does not mean they fall. That means a bunch of rocks came loose under their feet. They thought they were going to fall, but they managed to catch themselves and now have stopped their upward movement, but there was a noise that might have alerted the guards. So they failed, but they didn't fail. Their failure didn't make them go backwards. It did not stop them from having a chance to complete the task. So it just complicated things. It adds a wrinkle. Not falling damage.
And it would depend on the situation on how I'd play that, because
right, but but that was a rule of the guy's table. He was like, we don't fail downward here, we fail forward. I always, you still get to do the thing, you just don't get to do it in the way you wanted to, and things go badly because of that, but you still got to do it.
Yeah, and that's an interesting concept. I can see. Here's the unique situation that we're in. We're doing our shit on stream. Mm-hmm. And we set parameters and guidelines, and we've changed some of those, but we've tried not to change a lot of it because, one, we don't want it to get confusing, and we want it to be as close to rules as written, so that if someone has never played before, they're getting the flavor of what it would be like to sit down and play at a rules as written table. There are some things that are homebrewed, like fumbles, and that one having, a chance of losing your weapon or something. That's not rules as written. That is my homebrewed. I use fumble tables. I use critical failures on attacks because, you have critical successes, and it works for both enemies and players. It's not just the players that are bound to that constraint. But no, I could see at just a friendly table how that would be an excellent rule, and I can see where that would help. That would help a lot with maintaining the tension without the player feeling like they've been defeated. So I can see that as a good rule.
Yeah. There are some situations where, if I say that I'm gonna run and do a cool acrobatic flip over the big bad guy, and then land and stab him in the back. I don't think I get to fail forward on that if I fail the roll. I don't complete the somersault over the bad guy. I get grabbed by the ankle and Loki'd against the ground by the bad guy, and now I'm prone, I think is what happens if I roll a 1 on that. But not necessarily one. If I fail. Rolling a 1's not a fail. If my stat is high enough. But yeah, no, if you fail, then you as you go to jump over him, your boot accidentally strikes him in the forehead, which throws off your cool acrobatic move, and you land and go tumbling, and you're now prone. But you get to do unarmed attack damage to him because you hit him with your foot. That's the compromise. That's the fail forward. You still did damage. You just didn't stick the landing, pal. All right, so a rule that I've played at a table where that was the rule, and I did enjoy it. But what you get out of that is you get a DM who's trying not to laugh at things. Is the house rule: if it makes the DM laugh, it can happen. When people are just randomly throwing shit out there, if I throw something out there and you laugh at it, that means I can do that. That means it's, all right, you just gave me permission to try. Here we go.
Well, you know my motto. So, I will let you try anything that you can explain to me. Black Dragon...
sorry,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, but if someone says, I don't know, depending on the situation, but if there's a magic crystal in the room that does blah, and you're like, well, is there a chance that just sends the bad guy that's trying to kill us, that it zaps him and sends him to, limbo or whatever? And then the DM goes, ha 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 ha. You're like, sure, there's a chance. You just said yes. So yeah, that's anyway. You were gonna say.
Well, Black Dragon put something interesting in. He said that at their table, ones are DM discretion, what works for the story. Players and NPCs go flying, trip or fall on a shoelace. What descriptively works for the story. The rule of cool applies to ones as well. that is an interesting take on it. And when for attacks in combat, I number the ones, they are critical failures. I have a bot set up that I use so that I don't have to remember a chart, or I have limited space here. It's not like I have my DM screen and all my stuff. So I use the bot. I cheat, but yeah, I enjoy implementing, and it goes both ways. But that is and that's one of the things I love about this game is no two tables are the same.
Well, and Black Dragon references the rule of cool. The rule of cool is a homebrew rule. It's possibly the best of the homebrew rules. Like if it's cool, you can try it. Is my favorite rule. My second favorite homebrew rule of all time is the I know a guy rule, the Han Solo rule. I very much you made a face. Do you not know that one?
I don't know this one.
It's the Han flying into Cloud City. Lando. He knows a guy. I know a guy. So the DM sets the parameters like once per session, once per campaign, whatever. Everybody gets a I know a guy.
Nice.
And then the DM gets to roll to see whether that person is actually friendly towards you. Just because you know them doesn't mean that they're necessarily like when Han and Lando meet face to face in Empire. You get that moment where Lando's like, good scoundrel, and then they're really friends. Like, you walk in not knowing how they're going to react to seeing you, because maybe you didn't leave that relationship on the best terms the last time that you two walked out. The DM rolls to see how they feel about you in this moment, and what it's gonna, and not whether or not they'll help you, because your I know a guy should help you, but like how much negotiation is it going to take to get them to help you? How much convincing?
Right. How much?
And by convincing, I mean gold. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the I know a guy rule. I know a guy.
I know a guy. That's an interesting rule.
As long as you don't let your players abuse it. Like with anything, don't abuse the rule. Because if 2 or 3 times a session the same player is going, I know a guy. One player, calm down. Give the other people at the table a chance. And I think you find that if there's a limit on it, that you can only do it so often. But that you'll see players like notice who hasn't used theirs, and then when you're in a situation where you need something, and knowing a guy would really help, you find you look at one of the other players at the table, and you're like, hey, so don't you know somebody? you know a guy, right?
See, all of this makes me want to just like I want to see the apocalypse come and we start a new campaign and incorporate some of these cool rules. But then a part of me is like, yeah, we'll probably still keep it as close to rules as written as possible so that new people, can learn. But I get excited talking about these kind of things. Like, I know you can't tell it. That's because I'm on call and I haven't slept. But I get excited.
Can I tangent us for just a second?
Go ahead.
It's a related tangent. So we were just talking about a minute ago about critical successes and critical failures in regards to ability checks and skill checks. I want to take a moment and talk about when to say no as a DM. we're all improvising, and everyone knows the improvised storytelling mantra is yes and I firmly believe that you should be yes-anding your players. You should be, letting them develop the story and setting the scenes for them, basically for them to play in, and that is yes and. Sometimes you have to say no, and it's important to know when to do that. There are going to be times where no matter what the dice says, as we said before, there is no succeeding. I used the safe as an example. Now I'm going to use a social example because this is where saying no as a DM becomes important. If you have a player at your table who is playing the horny bard or the horny whatever, and has decided to try and seduce a character, and that character does not want to be seduced by the horny character in the party, you're the DM and that NPC is not into it, or you as the DM just don't want to roleplay with that. For example, I read a D&D horror story the other day where a first-time DM who was a woman had a DMPC that was the person the party needed to get information from and were escorting to a place that was haunted. Whole big plot thing. This person is kind of central to their plot, though. They need this DNPC because they're the one who've hired them, and they're the ones with the information for the job. The DNPC was female, was gay, had lost her wife at the place that they're going to that is haunted. And so the arcane trickster rogue, who is horny, tries to seduce the lesbian. Arcane trickster rogue played by a man, playing a male character, and the DM said no, and they were like, but with this role, and then had the audacity, after failing to properly seduce the character with dice rolls, then used magic to change their appearance to be the dead wife, and then tried to get the woman to sleep with him as the dead wife, to which the person freaked the fuck out because their dead wife just showed up and they're on haunted waters on a boat, and they know that there's ghosts and shit around, so freaked the fuck out and pulled a weapon. And the commotion alerted one of the other sailors, who came in and dragged the rogue out of the room. And then the DM got accused of metagaming. No, that DM was not metagaming. That DM was setting a boundary and had told the player explicitly no, and the player didn't listen to the boundary. So it's important to know when to say no, despite what the dice rolls are. There are some challenges that dice cannot overcome, particularly social ones. And I'm all for running social tests or social interactions the same way you run anything else with dice. I don't think your player needs to be eloquent and persuade someone, make an actually persuasive argument in order to succeed on a roll, and because their character might have the ability to make the persuasive argument, they might not.
Exactly.
So you make the roll, and you tell the DM what you want, and then you make the roll. Now, if you want to role play it out, if you think you are persuasive enough, and you make a good enough argument, the DM might give you advantage on the roll. But that's not, but that doesn't mean you have to actually make the persuasive argument yourself. The the dice are as much a factor as what you actually say. It's you conveying your intent and then rolling the dice to see what the outcome is. But sometimes there is no success. There is no way to succeed. There is no rolling high enough. No rolling a nat 20 is going to get the lesbian to decide to sleep with the straight dude. Not going to happen.
See, this goes into, I saw a meme once, and I live by this. Insight is not a lie detector. Persuasion is not mind control.
Yes, thank you. Brilliant.
There's some things that just, you're not going to persuade the king to give over his kingdom. And if the person is a really good liar, you may not, no matter what you roll, be able to pick up on it. You may get the feeling that something's not quite right, or you may believe the person just because they're that good. Those are things that actually happen. But no, if it had been me, as soon as the player ignored me on that, especially on that kind of boundary, I would have stopped the game and asked him to leave my table.
Like I said, this was a first-time DM, so they didn't. They were trying to be as accommodating as possible, I suppose. As didn't want to rock the boat at the table,
right?
And I get that. When you're a first-time DM, like you're sort of in people. You want people to have a good time at your table. You're very invested in that, and I understand it. However, there are times when if a player is crossing a boundary, especially verging on sexual assault, that you as the DM can tell them to fuck off. No.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's and caveat to all of that. Don't be that player. I know none of our audience is that player. We have a good audience, but for fuck's sakes, guys, don't be that player. Don't.
So we got a random question from Black Dragon. How much is the horny trope act versus actually happening in parties these days? I don't see it a lot. Like, Karok's a manho. He'll take lovin' on the run, but he's not trying to seduce everything that walks. I don't see it in games.
We've all played at the table with the person who plays the horny character. Once or twice. And they're fine. There's sometimes some of the funniest people at the table. Their antics cause hilarity. I'm sorry, I can't. The Henry Cavill. Have you seen the Henry Cavill meme?
No, I haven't.
It's not really a meme. It's more of a GIF. Someone on one of the press junkets, when the poor actors have to they sit in a room and interviewer after interviewer comes in to interview them and ask the same questions repeatedly. Well, one of the interviewers came in to interview Henry Cavill and started asking him, rather than questions about the movie that he was there to pitch, started asking him D&D stuff because Henry Cavill's a giant nerd. And the person threw out I would like to seduce the dragon. And Henry Cavill's response was, joke's on you, the dragon's into it, roll a constitution save. There's a be careful what you wish for in there, isn't there? And I think that's the perfect way to handle the horny character. Joke's on you, they're into it. This is going to hurt you more than it hurts them. That's... I I think the horny trope exists because a lot of us, a huge majority of us D&D players, started playing in high school, and we are a community that is predominantly male, although the number of ladies in the gaming space is thankfully growing, and ladies are getting more and more representation in gaming, as they should, as they have been here the whole time. But very often, gaming parties start as a group of teenage boys playing at the table at an age where looking at linoleum makes them hard. So, like, I think that's where the horny character, this is a fantasy role-playing game, and part of the fantasy when you're that age is that a girl might touch you.
Yes.
So I think that's where it comes from. I don't think in adult players you don't see it as often, unless they're doing it for a laugh.
Yeah. The Welsh Turk put that they've encountered, something similar to your horror story, and I just want to apologize that you did encounter it.
That's not okay at all.
That's not okay. At the time, we're going to go ahead and take our break. Then we'll come back and talk about some more homebrew rules, some table rules, that sort of thing. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll be right back. are back. Welcome back. Thanks so much for hanging out while we took a break, got our beverage of choice and all that. We are talking about homebrew rules today. I do want to follow up on what Welsh Turk said on break. They said that what they were trying to say is you need to know who you're playing with. If they have poor boundaries, they show up both real life and gameplay. That is
Right.
very true. That is so true.
Yeah, like, I saw someone talking the other day online, I believe it was a TikTok that a friend of mine shared, about setting boundaries and how if you're someone who wants to avoid confrontation and so you are uncomfortable expressing your boundaries adamantly for yourself, and are avoidant to having conversations about boundaries because they make you uncomfortable in some fashion due to anxiety or whatever, that is a beacon for narcissists. Narcissists will pick up on that energy very easily, and will be drawn to interactions with you. Whereas the opposite of that is if you set a boundary, you are clear about your boundaries. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You just have to say, "This is my boundary. Please don't cross it." And that is a lighthouse that draws people who respect boundaries to you, and they will make themselves clearly known. And I that hit me, in the good feels. Like that feels right to me in my experience. Being part of the poly community, I am all about establishing good boundaries. It's necessary and part of communication. So if, to quote Dan Savage, when you put out a boundary, or to paraphrase Dan Savage, I guess I'm not quoting directly. When you put out a boundary, you're telling the people you're interacting with one thing about you. And how they react to that tells you everything about them. You have to look at that like a superpower.
Yep.
I say one thing and it doesn't tell you much, but your response to it, if you balk and get offended that they have a boundary or whatever, you've just told them everything about you. I would encourage all of our viewers to examine your own feelings and reactions when someone presents a boundary, and unpack why you react the way you do, and if you are not, if you're the type that would balk at a boundary because you see it as arbitrary or whatever, figure out why that is and work on it.
No, I agree. Do you guys have any questions? It can be about homebrew rules. It can be about anything.
While we wait for questions to roll in, I've been looking at lists of homebrew stuff, and some of them, like I've read them and I'm like, eh. And so I just want to, let's see. We've covered that one. Here's one that I don't like. A homebrew rule requiring that you have proficiency in a skill before you can offer the help action on said skill.
No.
Yeah, no, I 100% no. Why? You know what? I am not a mechanic. But when a mechanic friend of mine is working on something, like my car, I don't have the skills required to actually do the work, but I can see what they're doing, and I, even as a layperson, can understand that holding the flashlight the right way, pointing it at the right thing, which is where they're working, or seeing the fastener that they're going to have to take off next and grabbing the next 3 tools they might need and having them at the ready is not something that requires me to have that skill proficiency. I don't have to be skilled at persuasion in order to use my physicality or helping can just be. Let me back up for a second. Helping can just be like boosting the person up a little bit. Yep. You know, the help action could be as simple as me, standing next to them, saying just low enough for only them to hear, "You got this." That can help.
Exactly.
I don't have to be proficient in shit to say, "You got this. You can do it." And give them that little extra confidence in what they're doing. Like, the thief is disarming a trap, and I don't have skills with thieves. I'm not proficient with thieves' tools. I'm not, I don't have sleight of hand or whatever as a proficiency, but I am capable of looking at them, recognizing what's going on, and go, breathe, slow your heart rate, take a breath, now do it. And that helps. If you think that someone needs a skill proficiency in order to offer help, you have obviously never been in a situation where someone who had no idea what you were doing offered you some encouragement in that moment, and it worked. I don't think you need. I think that's not a homebrew rule I want to see implemented.
No, it's not one I would implement.
There's been, I've come across several like that.
The Welsh Turk says, talk about homebrewed cursed items. Well, what exactly do you want us to talk about regarding these things? That's a very wide swath. I tell you my disappointment, no one has picked up and tried to wear a Numberkai cloak.
I'm not going to be that guy. I'm sorry. I did that with a character once. I've played that path out, and therefore it is not a roleplay option that I'm interested in pursuing again, regardless of. I think. Bjarnor definitely would not, because Bjarnor is a hunter, and so using one of their cloaks, I think, would have to be a complete act of desperation on his part. Karak, I think Karak is wise enough not to. I mean, I've got a 20 wisdom as Karak. I think Karak is wise enough not to put on one of those cloaks. Once again, except in desperation. If for example, Venfira were forced to go and sit the throne of Angramora, and we had to get into Angramora in order to rescue Venfira, that would be the thing that would make Karak pick up a cloak.
Everybody keeps talking about that, and I'm like, what makes anybody think that I'm going to have her taken to Angramora? Yeah.
Oh, yes, you haven't tried it multiple times.
What?
So,
No.
so that would be like going to rescue Venfira. Karak would risk it. Anything short of that, I don't think he would, because I've got a fucking 20 wisdom. So, that's. But above table, having played in a campaign with you, where a character of mine picked up the cloak, put it on, wore it, and dealt with the consequences thereof. I don't want to retread that ground because I've already played that character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't already play that character, it'd be different. But I played that character; it just wasn't on stream. For anyone who's wondering, in the campaign, my first campaign with Tyr, which started not long after the pandemic started. I joined the game not long after the pandemic started. It had already been going a bit. I played a character named Dar. Dar was an Iron Sage soldier. Dar had some anger issues. Dar picked up a cloak and had to make a bunch of saving throws to not succumb and me lose the character. And I made those saving throws, and it changed my subclass in the coolest way. I was so pleased with walking that path because the new subclass that I got did everything that my old subclass did, but just in a different flavor. So it dovetailed very nicely together and made the character just that much more interesting. It was really cool, but I don't feel the need to take a character down that path again because that's what I did with my last character at Tyr's campaign. So if someone else wants to pick up the cloak, Karak with his 20 wisdom will caution them against it and will think it a bad idea, but it's their character choice in the end.
Yeah. All right, Welsh Turk. How do I come up with cursed items? For me, with cursed items, it's why are they cursed? That's what I'm asking myself. If I'm going to create a cursed item, why is it cursed? For example, the Umbrakai cloaks. If you put on an Umbrakai cloak, you can become you have the risk of turning into an Umbrakai. And it's because that is part of their modus operandi for replicating. But I think of why is this item cursed and why is this item where it's at? And those are the two things, if I decide I want to put a cursed item in, that I think of first. Let's see, what else we got? Do I enjoy funny cursed items? Depending on the story. With Scions and DQSR, I feel that it's more serious. So it needs to be more serious with the items instead of the funny stuff. But there are some good funny things out there. Here's a homebrew rule from Black Dragon. Everyone gets one free success per session. That is interesting.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. Yeah. I would go further than that. If I were going to implement that rule. Because I think at the heart of that rule, what you're saying is that once a day, roughly, most sessions don't last more than, sometimes you have more than one day in a session, but very often not. But I think the subtext of that rule is that once a day, you get to succeed at something, and you get to choose what that is. I would take what is it, the roll that Zaraj has to make as a druid to see if it's a wheel day or a woe day. I would take that mechanic, and then I would use a pop culture reference, and I would make it bones no bones. And I would make each character at the start of the session roll. Are you having a bones day or a no bones day? And if you're having a bones day, you get your one free success. If it's a no bones day, then you don't get a success today that you get to just magic out of the air because you're having a no bones day. And I think that would be how I would want to handle it, because that's the way I read the subtext of that homebrew rule. Like, because not every, as a person with ADHD and other neurodivergent sort of issues, like, there are days when I'm not succeeding at shit. I can't just magic a success out of the air today. My success was I got out of bed today. So, so I think I would go no bones about it, and unintended. And then have that rule as a possibility, not a guarantee.
I don't hate it, but for me, like, I like to DM from a point of, I like the drama, I like the tension, I like it when shit comes down to, you've got to make this dice roll. And you guys know me well enough to know that moment is usually coming at some point. So you guys would just hold on to it and use it then. And then that makes me have to bring in more of those types of moments to balance it out, and I don't really want to have to do that. That's my thoughts on it.
Right. So here's the thing. Dice don't listen. Shh. Don't listen, guys. I'm not talking. Pretend I'm not talking about you. My dice tend to roll really high. I often get good dice rolls. I often lament that I don't fail more often, because sometimes failure would be more interesting. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it'd be fun to fail this. Nope, all right, I rolled a nat 20. I love that my dice roll well. It makes me happy. As a dice dwarf, it means I have curated my collection well. That gives me good happy fifis in my heart place. But there are times when you're like, oh, failing would have been cooler. Failing might have been cooler. Failing enhances the story. Period. The end. Full stop. The failures tell as good a story sometimes as the successes. I'm totally okay with failing. Failing a saving throw sometimes sucks, but it's sometimes really interesting. And then, even if it isn't interesting in the moment, in the aftermath, dealing with that failed save is sometimes just as fun. Lollipop's right. You don't grow without failure. Sometimes Ustad, we named our show Will of the Dice for a reason. So it feels to me like a betrayal of the spirit of what we are particularly doing. We are giving ourselves over to the will of the dice. if I roll something and I think it would be more interesting to fail the roll than to succeed the roll, I'm not leaving myself open to the will of the dice. So I very often will go with what the dice say because the dice said so. And there are times when when Tyr gives us a choice about something and we're like, will of the dice, let's see which way it goes. And I feel that way about my own rolls. Like let's just let the dice tell the story. Let's not artificially inflate it. We're doing a stream, so we have every right to try and make it as entertaining as possible for you guys. So we could choose to take a failure if we think it's a better story to heighten the story for you guys. But it's like when I dream. All right, I am a lucid dreamer. I very often, most of the time, when I'm dreaming, I realize that I'm dreaming. And I could take over that dream and make that dream into anything I want it to be. But I very often in the dream will choose to see where the dream goes. To try consciously not to take it over and just let my subconscious do its thing and tell me what it wants to tell me. So I feel the same way about my dice rolls. I'm not going to take control of this. I'm going to let the subconscious that is my dice tell me what it needs to tell me, and we're going to go with that. If that makes sense.
It does. And that's one of the things, like, as a DM, you have to see the opportunities in both success and failure to tell the story. Like, how much more awesome will it be if they fail or if they pass? And, that's part of setting the DC on things when I'm setting the DC. Sometimes I have to set the higher DCs, and it sucks, but, it's like you said, we named the show Will of the Dice because we're all forsaken to the will of the dice. It's not because my name's Will. My name is John. Just so you know, people call me Tyr, but my name's John. So I think that, in the spirit of what we do and what we've tried to do here in this craziness, I think you have the best approach.
And I will say that as a DM, I encountered this on Sunday. I wrote an encounter that was too big. On paper, the challenge rating was medium. It should not have been that hard for a group of players. What I didn't take into account was the number of bodies I put on the screen and the amount of actions that it would entail to defeat them. Even though it was only a medium encounter, due to the nature of action economy in D&D, it made the combat long. And by the end of the combat, I was looking for an easy way out to move the story along because time was running out. Because, we're on a 4-hour stream. I got to get the story moving. This is a one-shot. We can't get bogged down in this combat for the rest of the night. We've got things to do. So I was looking for a way out, and then my player, Alice, provided the perfect way out. She tried something I didn't expect, something that wasn't in my notes, something I hadn't accounted for and didn't think would work. But then she said it, and I was like, it's simple and brilliant, and I didn't think of it. And if it succeeds, it gets me out of this, and we get to move on to the next thing. Yeah, go for it. Roll the dice, and I'll roll against you, and we'll see what happens. And I knew what I wanted the outcome to be for story. Now, I didn't fudge my rolls, because she straight up beat me. I didn't have to fudge a roll. But in that moment, I might have fudged the roll for the sake of the stream and the story and getting through the one shot in the amount of time we had. so sometimes as the DM, you have to make that choice. You have to not do what the dice say. You have to, that isn't right to what I'm doing. That doesn't work. No matter what the dice say, it is counter to what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Sometimes though, you go, oh well, that's interesting. Let's see what happens. So I was provided with an opportunity to go, oh, that's interesting. That's definitely going to happen. But are the dice behind me too? And the dice were with me, and I was like, okay, cool. The dice wanted what I wanted in that moment. Here we go. It works. You give the command in Orcish, and as there was no guards left to countermand it. If there had been a guard alive, the guard would have been able to overrule that. The guard would have just said no, and his voice would have carried more authority. With no guard alive in the room, her instructing them in Orcish, instructing the automatons to stand down, perfectly worked and did what I wanted for the story. So yeah, sometimes you have to fudge the rules as the DM.
Yep, sometimes you have to.
That's just the way it is.
Rudolph Movo says it's like why we call it fishing and not catching. There's a chance for failure. Exactly.
Yes.
And sometimes failure is the more interesting option.
So some of the other rules that I've come across in just a quick little search I've done while we were on break, using healing potions as a bonus action. We already have a rule in place for that. We've discovered the rule we like for it, which is if you use your full action to take a healing potion, you get maximum benefit. If you use a bonus action, you roll the dice and see how well it works. I like that better than just straight up changing the action economy on it and saying it's just a bonus action to take a healing potion. No, there's a benefit to doing it the way the rules wrote it, and there's not a detriment, but using it as a bonus action means you're rolling dice to see how well the healing potion works. I'm all for, there's an expanded reincarnation table. I'm all for that. Here's an interesting one. This is one that I personally like it. I like it in every game that I've ever gotten to play where a DM did this, because I think feats are interesting and make characters more interesting. But then again, I'm a pro from Dover and a genre fiend, so getting my character to be really cool with the one thing he does, and getting my character to be more tropey in the genre or the theme that I've built my character in really works for me, and that is starting with a feat. That everybody gets to start with a feat in addition to whatever your character build says. So variant humans, I guess, would start with 2 feats in that case. But everyone gets a free feat at start.
I don't know how I feel about that one. That one I'll have to think on.
As a player, I really like that. Now, that can affect game balance down the road. But unless with the exception of the list of feats that we have put as you need DM permission to get these feats, and you can't take more than one out of each section of the list of forbidden feats, as it were. Those feats notwithstanding, most of the other feats in the game don't change a lot. They give you a couple of added, they give you a little nudge. They give you a little flavor. They give you a little something. Most of it's utility, and most of it's not game breaking. But when you start combining, Sentinel with Polearm Master, it can get ridiculous. When you combine Crossbow Expert with Sharpshooter, or either of those with the Elven archery feat thing. The racial feat that elves can get for archery. They can get ridiculous and OP. That's something, but we've already accounted for that in our games.
Yep.
That's why we have a list of feats you can't combine with each other, and that you have to ask the DM before you take even one of those feats, and you're never allowed to take two.
Yep.
Once you take them from different portions of the list, and then you still have to have DM permission to do even that.
Yep. Rudolph Movo put that they've done the feat at level 1 thing. It went super well. The twist was it could not be a combat feat like dual wielding, but skilled, sulker, etc. were good. That's an interesting take on it. Like, so you're low level. You wouldn't have, unless you could justify the combat, but just making it skill based, I have no problem with that. That would be pretty cool.
I will say that there are times when it sucks when you are starting a new character and you're starting at level 1 or level 3 or whatever, and you have a picture of the character and how the character works in your brain, and it doesn't translate onto the page because you don't have enough stuff to make it work. Like, I envision my character, my dwarven character who turns into a werebear, I envision wielding 2 axes. But I can't wield 2 axes because unless it's an axe and a hand axe, and that's not the way I see the character. I see the axes matching, so I need dual wielder. That one, dual wielder, is the only one of those that I'm like, about not allowing at that first level. But I think you could make a case to the DM for that. This is how I see my character. This is something that is necessary to my vision of the character. When I think about them, this is an integral part of how I think about them, and I don't want to have to change how I think about my character because the rules don't let me start with that. Now, you can always just take the penalty and be less good and then get it, at 4th level or whatever. But being allowed to start with a character that matches the way you see your character, the essentials of your character, not the, I want to be able to counter spell. Well, you can't cast that high yet. That's not that's not integral to your character. That
Only if you're
writing a level 1 backstory is hard, by the way. What was that, Tyr?
Only if you're counterspelling heals.
Yeah, fuck you. Writing a level 1 character is hard because you have to find that balance of interesting backstory, yet completely unskilled, mostly, or almost unskilled. And so a lot of the ideas I come up with for characters involve someone with some life experience because I, as a 40-something-year-old guy, don't. It's hard for me to write the noob character anymore because that's no longer where I'm at in my life. I have life experience, and I want to play a character that matches that to some extent. So writing that character that barely knows what the fuck they're doing is difficult. I have to really tap into me at 23 before I knew shit. Well, when I only thought I knew shit.
I gotta say, having Scions be the first campaign that I did not start characters at level 1, but started them at level 3, I will never go back to level 1 again unless it's integral to the campaign. It's so much better, in my opinion, as a DM, because you don't have to worry about, this rat is going to kill my players. Although a rat almost killed Pants. But
Yeah, and here's the thing. By level 3, every class has their archetype, which means you get to start as your archetype. Because, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but if you have 2 players playing the same class in your campaign, they're going to seem redundant in levels 1 and 2. When they get to level 3, they take different subclasses, they suddenly become very different characters. And so it's just easier from a running standpoint and from a playing standpoint to start with your archetype cemented. You are somewhat experienced, you're a bit experienced, and you have specialized. You're experienced enough to you've chosen your major in college, and you are trying to achieve your major now. That is where that's where a level 3 character is in my brain.
Yeah,
you know?
And that's where I was going with it, is that by level 3 you get to pick your archetype, you get to pick, so much about the character that you develop them into an actual character, an individual thing, not, you still got to flesh them out playing them, but it makes it easier to flesh them out as far as backstory and things of that nature. And so, yeah, I will, unless it's integral to the campaign, I will never start at level 1 again.
From personal experience, I had a DM, one of my first DMs ever. Yeah, we were second edition was still pretty new. I don't remember if we were still playing original D&D or if we had moved to second edition at this point. But they started every campaign the same way. We were level 1, and you woke up naked in the woods. Every time. You had to find gear. You had to figure out why you were naked in the woods, what happened. He had even allowed us to buy starting equipment, but then we didn't have it when we started. And after years and multiple campaigns of having to play that way every time we started a new campaign, knowing that, I'm gonna wake up out of the fog on a cart with another Nord, but naked, like, that had an impact on me psychologically. Like, I don't. The further I can get away from starting a campaign like that, the better. Yeah. I didn't feel like, you wake up as a first level character with no gear, naked in the woods for some fucking reason. You don't feel like you have agency.
No.
So I dislike starting a character at a place of no agency. Now, sometimes, if the story has really good potential and the DM says in advance, hey, or even if they don't say in advance, but you wake up and you're in a prison cell, all the things that you have on your character sheet are for gear, except your clothes are over there across the room on a table, and you're in a cell. Okay, well, you've got me hooked now. My stuff is here. You haven't had me robbed in my sleep and left naked in the woods, and now I have to go bare knuckle with my swinging helicopter a bunch of goblins who took my shit but left me alive for whatever reason. But now I want to know how I got here. I want to know why I'm locked up. What do they think I did? And I've got to find a way out. Well, that's an interesting story and could be a cool way to start a campaign. But at least my gear is still there and I have an opportunity to have agency still, even though I'm locked in a cage right now.
Yep.
And I will trust my DM to provide a way to move the story forward and get me out of the cage. Even if that is a deus ex machina of, a high-level adventurer bursting in and killing, the the evil mage experimenting on people that has me in a cage, and I'm able to grab my gear and maybe something else cool and get out. And now the party has gotten together because we all experienced a shared trauma. We were all locked up together, or whatever. Like, that could be a cool way to get the party together. You just have to have a DM you trust to provide you that opportunity, or to give you a cool story based on where they start you.
Yeah, exactly. Welsh Turk, have you ever played a campaign with characters at mixed levels? Is that something that happens? That happened a lot in 2nd edition because classes leveled at different XP. Some classes leveled slower, some leveled quicker. So you saw that a lot in 2nd edition. In 5e, everything levels the same. So you don't see much in the way of level discrepancies between characters in the same party. But I have played it. I've DM'd it, and I have played it, and it was tricky to DM because you have these fighters that level like absolute fuck crazy in the beginning. Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, 3rd edition did a lot to fix that. 3rd edition is where they introduced the sort of across the board leveling XP table, and they made it ramp, with the idea that, because it was still very common practice at the time, and there's a homebrew rule we can discuss momentarily. It was still very common practice at the time to, if your character died, you start over at level 1. And so they made it so that a level 1 character jumping in with a higher level party would catch up very quickly because of the way the XP ramped. A level 1 character, going from level 8 to 9 is the same amount of XP it took a character to go from level 1 to level 5. So by the time those characters move 1 level, you've moved 5, and you're gaining on them. So that was a good balance. That was a good move, and since then, more and more DMs have moved over to the mindset of, well, when you die, it's I always think of it as the players have the XP, not the character.
Right.
I played the character, I gained the experience. Therefore, it's my experience, and when my character dies, I get to use that experience to bring in another character at that level. Is the way I've always seen it. Or the way I prefer to see it. But yeah, and then with 5e, they added the Milestone System, which I like very much. In 2nd edition, they had the mechanics like the person who killed the monster got the lion's share of the XP for the encounter. So whoever got the final blow in, which is where kill stealing came from, the rogue comes out of nowhere to take the last hit point away from the guy you've been hacking on for an hour and get the kill. Rogues also got XP for every gold piece they stole was worth 1 XP. We actually played in a game. The rules as written said you are only allowed to level once per session. Our rogue, we all slaughtered a bunch of people on a boat, and then we all walked off the boat to go do other things, and the rogue was like, no, I don't follow them. This is my boat. I own this boat now. And the DM was like, what? He's like, yeah, how much is a galleon worth? And the DM had to look it up and was like, takes you up 3 levels. You're now level 5. You can't be level 5 in 1 session, though. So for the next 3 game sessions, at the end of every session, you gain a level. Because the rules said he stole enough gold by claiming ownership of the galleon that we all slaughtered everyone on, but he was the one who stayed behind and laid claim to the boat. As a rogue, he gets the XP. So yeah, it wasn't a great system. The new systems are better. I like them a lot more. They're more egalitarian. And
right.
somewhere in there, I thought of another homebrew rule that I was going to mention, but that involved leveling, but I can't think of it now.
It's all good. We're almost out of time anyway.
We are.
So,
we're running out of clock.
I will be putting out notice. Probably, I'll make sure to talk to the players. Remind me Saturday or Sunday before I run that I'm going to be putting in this new crit rule because I really like it. I don't remember who originally posted it, so I can't give them credit. I'm sorry. If you come across this, I am sorry. I don't remember who you are. I don't remember things well. So, but yeah, let's remind people who we are, where they can find us, and let's get the hell out of here.
Oh, hey, look, Patrick's in chat. Hi, Patrick. Anyway, yeah. So, hi, gamers. I'm still Clark. And when I'm not here, you can find me on DQSR playing Bjarnor, or on Scions playing Karak. And on the Facebooks, you can find me, as well as the Twitter pages, at Loch Unruly. That's Loch with an H.
And I'm Tyr the DM. I am the world's okayest DM. And you can find me on Twitter at Tyr_the_DM. Remember, guys, that you are not alone. That even though things get hard and times get tough, there are people there to support you. Let them. This is advice I'm going to have to take as the 4th is approaching rapidly. Remember that love and inclusion, these are the torches that light a path to a better tomorrow. Come join us and be torchbearers. And remember, if someone doesn't know, don't cast aspersions. Cast guidance. Later, guys.
Bye, everybody.